Welcome to the new moon in Capricorn, the January 18th new moon of 2026. My name's Elizabeth Russell. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the themes that are coming up during this lunation. And we're going to also explore the magical, mystical, it's not a fairy tale, it's a lunar tale from the world of dream fruit for this moon that we're talking about the moon that will be new on Sunday, January 18th in late Capricorn. It will be full on Sunday, February 1st, mid Leo, and this cycle ends on February 16th. So we're looking at the last part of January, the first part of February 2026 for this lunation, and we need to talk about Cassandra. The Sabian symbol for this new moon is 29 Capricorn, which is a woman reading tea leaves. And we really just want to consider how we do and how we don't believe women. The story of Cassandra is a really important reminder. Yeah, we don't like to hear women say what's true when we don't understand even how they could know it or when they can't prove it. So Cassandra was the daughter of King Priam and Queen Hecuba in Troy in ancient Greece. As often happens, she was a coveted daughter by some of the gods and also mortal men. Apollo is pursuing Cassandra, courting her, and in an effort to woo Cassandra, he grants her the gift of prophecy, the gift of sight. Ah, she can see the future. And then she rejects his advances. She says no. And so he spits in her mouth and curses her with this not being believed. She can see the truth, but she will never be believed. So here we are. This is an old story. It's told in a lot of ways. I'm obviously not taking us deep into it because we're going to enter a different story. We're going to enter the world of dream fruit here in a moment, which I will share with you what that is. And but for now, let's just consider what it is when women speak the truth and what it is on a social level when we do or don't believe them and what they have to do in order to be believed. But also, we can think about this symbol, the reading of tea leaves, the writing is on the wall. There is certainly that element to this symbol as well. We also want to acknowledge that, like, there's some bigger astrology going on. There's a very big astrological story happening right now. I don't usually take us too deep into the finer points of the current astrology during our Lunar Tales fireside chats, but today is a little bit different. I want to share with you because it is really informing so much of our experience right now. So both Saturn and Neptune will be making their ingress into Aries this during this lunar cycle. Aries is getting a lot of play this year generally, and we'll talk more about this next month because Saturn and Neptune, not only are they each finding their way into this new sign, they will be exactly conjunct at the very first degree of Aries. So this is really marking a moment of rebirth. This is the closure of one cycle. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac, and the beginning of an entirely new cycle. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So we're really, really at the very first degree of the very first sign. These two pretty big deal planets are meeting up to activate a really dynamic, fresh energy in the world and in our own self-identity. How do we think of ourselves? So that's something we'll talk about down the line, but just a preview of coming attractions so that we're thinking not only about a woman reading tea leaves and the oracle theme and what it takes to be heard and be believed. We also want to then think about that Aries energy. We're looking at what can Aries be as it re-identifies, as it redefines its self-concept. Aries is the ram. This is a very hard-headed energy. This is a fierce, unafraid of challenge, ready to charge ahead, very courageous, unafraid of falling, somehow finding just even the tiniest crack for footing on the sheerest of rock faces. And we can certainly also remember that the ram is a very communal animal. And so there could be a sense that we're looking out for each other in a pretty fierce, hard-headed way. So that is an energy that's likely to unfold. I mean, it's so hard to talk about astrology right now. And not just say, you don't need astrology. Look out your window, walk out your door, go into your town center. I mean, this is just this is the living story unfolding around us. And it is astrologically indicated, and it helps to identify that so that we can choose where to land, how to respond, what the actual finer nuance of the energy is. So, yeah, as you enter, now this is a quote I want to share with you. As you enter positions of power, and because we're dealing with this Aries energy, there's a lot of conversation about power and that forward action. As you enter positions of power, dream a little before you think. And I love this quote from Toni Morrison because we are looking at Neptune, the dreamer, Saturn, the builder, stepping into this potent life spark Aries energy. As you enter positions of power, dream a little before you think. Thank you, Toni Morrison, for the wisdom. And I feel like this can really guide us a little bit as we open that other level of consciousness that a woman reading tea leaves probably is accessing, that a prophetess, Cassandra, is accessing, that a priestess of vision is accessing this other layer of understanding, a deeper, more esoteric path of knowledge. So we want to be thinking about how we dream before we think, how we're thinking. And of course, if you've been visiting and following along in the lunar tales and in the world of dream fruit, you know that we're always really interested in how we think. And dream fruit opens this possibility of a storied realm where we are all earthlings in training on a mission to remember ourselves as part of something larger, remember ourselves in radical belongingness with all that is. So that is the dream fruit mission. It comes at a time when our living earth has been imperiled and at a time when our creative nature is rising up in response. So we are resilient and we are sober about the context of now. So that all exists always inside the world of dream fruit. And we have a few pathways that we engage inside the stories that we tell in dream fruit. And those pathways are attuning to natural cycles of time. This is one way that we remember that we're connected to something larger. That there are cycles that they can be connected with. We can follow along, breathe with light, dark, light, dark. There's a rest, there's an action, there's a beginning and a middle and an end and a pause and a beginning again. These cycles that the moon is always able to show us, that the cycle of a day and a night are able to show us, the seasons themselves able to show us. And as we entrain and remember and connect with those cycles, one pathway to remembering our radical belonging with all that is. Second pathway is our connection to magical allies, letting the world be more than human and letting ourselves feel supported. and connected so that there is allyship around us so that we can respond to as allies and receive guidance and support from allies. Those magical allies turn up for us in a lot of different ways, but in the world of dream fruit, we begin with the beautiful moon being an ally to us, teaching us on a regular basis. And the third thing that helps lead us back to that radical belonging, that sense of interrelatedness, is the deep imagination. This is why we tell these stories. This is why we're interested in the ways that we think about our world, about ourselves in the world, about the wild living story that's unfolding around and through us. The deep imagination is a connecting tool, an organ of consciousness that helps us be in dialogue with something more than linear, more than human. It works in imagery, it works in symbol, dream, story. The deep imagination is a beautiful way of knowing and relating to the world. And it reminds us again, we are connected. We're inside this interrelated, breathing organism of Earth, cosmos. Yes, what a blessing it is. Okay, so all of that just to kind of say, yeah, we've got a story that is alive around us. We ourselves are moving toward greater and greater sense of empowerment as individuals in our lives. And as we do that, our ancestor and beloved teacher, Toni Morrison, reminds us, yeah, dream a little before you think. Allow the vision to come in, allow it to drop in deeply. And we can do that today. So we're going to do it by just sort of shifting our mindset a little bit, shifting how we are processing. I know I'm kind of just laying out a lot of ideas, but now we're going to shift a little bit into moon mind, into a lunar consciousness, into the deep imagination. This is where we can be more receptive, less linear, so that symbols, words, poetry, little snippets can bubble up, they can percolate. Like a dream, it's not always going to be in an order that we immediately grasp. It might be a little bit of a call and response, or a little bit of echo, 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 or through the mist, through the moonlight. We are going to enter the story, entering the dream of the oracle moon. And in the dream of the oracle moon, we brew water and leaf together in a ritual of conjuring. We gaze into the steam as if through enchanted glass, and we see an egg, wings, new life flowing toward us. The world trembling with seas swallowing shorelines, forests gasping for air, our own voices silenced and drowned by unshed tears. The tea that we are brewing, it speaks in spirals and swirls, bringing a healing vision into focus through its mist, through its steam. We see the golden ratio threading through galaxy and fern frond. We read the conspiracy between mycelium and root. We can hear the gossip between wind and branches and the truth-telling of stones. And our voices at last open. They open with love and with grief. We rise as God's sisters to a living world. And do we speak what's true before us? And can we now be heard? Yes. Believe the women. Spill the tea. Believe the women. Spill the tea. I mean, brewing tea is a magical act. Leaf and water and heat and time. And here we've brewed a concoction. We have created, we have conjured something. And it creates our own, window, a portal through which we can see what we see. What do you see when you read your own tea leaves? Now, whatever that is, if you're just looking at the signs or the recurring ideas in your mind or the things that you're hearing from friends and loved ones, what are the messages that are coming through in ways that you might not immediately validate? So, what we're learning in the story, what we see is, yeah, crisis, the living earth has been imperiled. And we also see this amazing dance of reciprocity, of call and response, of connection and mutual support and aid, the conspiracy of mycelium and root, the gossip of wind and branches, the truth telling stones, everything conspiring to bring us into what is true. Into what is true. We are all connected. We are all breathing the same air. We are alive inside the same beautiful breathing planet. What we do to one, we do to all. And it's because we're all connected. It's because we are actually one. And Neptune and Saturn together, traveling like they are just fresh out of the sign of Pisces, they know more than usual. They're aware of how deeply connected and interwoven we are. And now they're entering Aries with that fierce life force, that spark. So, where might that lead us? And so, what happens in the dream of the oracle moon in this lunar tale is, yeah, we begin with this sense of like, we need to brew the tea. It's time to brew the tea because our throats are clenched in silence. The earth is on fire, or the earth is flooding. There are so much discomfort and pain. And what do we need to know as we gaze into the steam, as we gaze at the leaf swirling in the water? We need to know that's all connected. And our voices then, they open up. Once we remember that, our voices open with love and grief, and truth comes spilling forth. And can we now be heard? Yeah, believe the women. So, where is the writing on the wall? In your life, in the world? What can you see that maybe you haven't given yourself credit for seeing? There is actually a prompt that I'm going to offer you us all for this month. Is there a vision of life that you are ready to lift up? So, yes, you can look for your own allies. Who and where are you finding support? Again, this can be in very inanimate objects. For example, a charming teacup. This would actually be a wonderful month, lunar cycle, to feel some connection with a special cup, since we're reading tea leaves this month. So that could be an ally. You might find your ally in your favorite oracle deck, your favorite oracle person, whatever different divination technique you might choose. And yeah, because we're inside a Capricorn lunation, it's a nice time to think about self-discipline. It's a nice time to think about future security and what are the concrete measurables toward what you're wanting to create and achieve. It's also a really good time to think about your personal authority. What is authority but authorship? Agency. Capricorn loves agency. So, yeah, January 26th is when Neptune will make its entry into Aries for 12 years. And February 13th is when Saturn will be making its entry into Aries for 2 years. And that point, February 13th, will be right before that'll be the closing of this cycle, which ends February 16th. So the next new moon will be February 17th, and we can meet up then for the next exciting edition of Dream Fruits Lunar Tales for Earthlings for 2026. If you have any questions about the world of Dream Fruit, please reach out. As you know, you can get the pocket-sized adventure anytime on my website, and you can also check out the Journal Magic for Earthlings, which is a guided moon journal, and it's a very sweet companion. They work alone or together, and I'd be happy to get either one of them over to you. Just let me know. All right. I am wishing us all very, very well during this time. I know it is a very tender time. It is a very fraught moment. And as we talked about at the beginning of the year when we did our astrology for the New Year series, which you can still get, I'll put the link below if you want to get the recordings of those. But one of the things that we talked about is, yeah, this is the year of the fire horse. We're entering a lot of Aries energy, a lot of fire and air energy this year. It's a wonderful time to find that crystalline still point, that inner structure that is connected and rooted, but also clearly constellated. Your moral compass, your North Star, you really want to know where they are. You want to know where you stand. It's a really, really lovely way to be with this energy right now. Okay, so I'm wishing you very well, and I look forward to seeing you next month. Take care.